A few weeks ago, we had a big giveaway and we sent out 12 different Endorfy keyboards to people around the globe. Actually, one keyboard is still waiting to be claimed, so this might be a very good moment for you to check your email one more time. But nevertheless, as I said in that video, Endorfy doesn't only make peripherals. They have a whole spectrum of different value-focused products that might be very interesting to a lot of you. Things like power supplies, CPU coolers, PC cases, different fans, and so on. And this time around, they actually sent over a couple of parts for me to check out and to use to build a nice gaming system. So let's see what I put together here, how well it performs when it comes to thermals as well as gaming. What can you do differently? And most importantly, how much would it cost you to make a system that is similar to this one? Let's begin. I'm going to start with Endorfy's case that I used for this build, the Arx 700 ARGB. And this is a very well-built case with a steel chassis, a mesh panel in the front, and a glass panel on the side, with 440mm addressable RGB fans included with this version. 3 are in the front of the case and 1 is in the back. They also have an Arx 700 Air version available that drops the RGB but adds an extra fan to the top of the case, bringing the total of included fans to 5, which is very impressive considering the fact that it will cost you about 110 euros here in Europe or just under $100 in the US. While this addressable RGB version with 4 addressable RGB fans and a fan hub will cost you about 10 euros or dollars more. Design-wise, it doesn't really stand out too much. It looks fairly neutral but very elegant with a few tastefully done details here and there. The front mesh panel doubles as a dust filter, which is very easy to remove and to clean. And it has another dust filter at the bottom that can be removed from the front, which I do appreciate a lot. But it is a soft magnetic filter, so it might be a bit fiddly to put it back in its place after you've cleaned it. Size-wise, this is a pretty typical mid-tower ATX case, and even though it is the biggest case Endorfy has to offer and it will fit most components you might have in mind comfortably, it is not too big for you to have to worry if it will fit on your desk easily or not. The inside is definitely focused on functionality rather than clean design, as it has lots of different mounting spots for 2.5-inch drives like everywhere. You can mount 2 on the PSU shroud, 4 next to the motherboard, and some in the back as well. And since most people will probably not use that many SATA drives, I do kind of wish they included some sort of a cover to make the inside of the case look a bit cleaner than it is at the moment. But you have so much space inside. You can fit a large air cooler up to 179mm in height, all-in-one coolers with 360mm radiators mounted in the front of the case or on the top of the case, and a big graphics card up to 410mm in length. And in the back, you also have plenty of space for cable management. Now, since this is supposed to be a gaming system, I went with the Ryzen 7 9800X 3D because at the moment, this is the fastest gaming CPU that you can currently get, and there are just no alternatives that are even close to it when it comes to gaming. It uses a bit more power than its predecessor, the 7800X 3D, but if the case and the cooler do their job right, this should not be a problem. For the motherboard, I went with the ROG Strix X870E, and to be fair, it is a bit of an overkill for a CPU that rarely uses more than 150 watts, but it will go really well with this build and add a bit more RGB to the mix. The case comes with an RGB and a fan hub, and you can use the reset button to go through some of the standard RGB modes, but Endorfy doesn't have its own RGB software, and if you want to fine-tune it a little bit more, you will have to control it with your motherboard. Now, to cool the CPU, Endorfy sent over their all-in-one Navis F360 ARGB cooler, and since they don't make memory modules, or at least not yet, I went with a nice G-Skill kit this time around. For the SSD, I grabbed a 990 Pro that I had laying around, and for the GPU, I actually grabbed the biggest one I had, which is this ROG Strix version of the RTX 4080 Super. Now, I do wish the case came with some sort of a GPU holder, especially when you want to use a large and heavy card like this one. And even though the Strix model does come with a small holder by itself, you cannot use it in this case and you will have to find a different solution. And last but definitely not the least, since you do need one to power the whole system up, I use the Endorfy's 1000 watt Supremo power supply. It is a very nice looking build with mostly black components and a good amount of RGB, but if you don't like RGB, you can either just turn it all off or you can go for the non-RGB air version of the case and of the cooler. But let's see some performance numbers and what can we expect from this PC. So when just stressing the CPU, it actually performs really well, as you would expect from a case with 4 fans included, plus another 3 from the 360mm all-in-one cooler. CPU thermals looked very comfortable, and the case itself was barely above ambient temperature. And this is with the fans manually set to 40 decibels at a 50 centimeter distance, which is a nice maximum noise level for a system under load. Now, while gaming and playing Cyberpunk 2077, which nicely stresses both the CPU and the GPU, the temps obviously went up a little bit, but the results were still excellent overall. The CPU wasn't anywhere near its limits, the GPU cooler did its job well, and the case managed to get that heat out easily. So even if I went with a higher precision GPU, it would still not have any issues. When it comes to gaming performance, this system does as well as you would expect with a Ryzen 7 9800X3D combined with a 4080 Super. At 1440p native resolution with no upscaling enabled, every game should run really well. So this should be a very good system to pair with a nice high refresh rate Quad HD monitor. And on 4K resolution, you can also run everything pretty well, but I would still use DLSS upscaling for some of those heavier titles on this resolution. So overall, I really think this build turned out pretty sweet. And as it is like this, it will cost you around 3,000 euros or $3,000. But if you want to build something like this today, I do have a few suggestions I would like to mention. Now, first of all, NVIDIA is launching their new 5000 series graphics cards in January, so in a month. So right now, I don't think you should buy a new RTX 4080 Super unless you can get one for an extremely good price. So I would probably wait to see what the new GPUs have to offer before deciding which one to get. But I think the rest of this build is definitely a very nice base for a high-end next generation GPU. The case is not expensive, but it offers all the performance you really need. Endorfy's water cooler isn't expensive either for a 360mm model, but keep in mind, Endorfy is a European brand and they only started selling their products in the US recently, so not all products, like their power supply for example, are available just yet. So I would just grab a nice Seasonic model instead. 850 watts would be enough for this system, but you can go a bit higher to give yourself a bit of headroom for the future. The 9800X3D is expensive and it is still very hard to get one at the moment, but it is also the best gaming processor on the market, and if you're making a new high-end system that will be used for gaming primarily, this is the CPU to get. Now, I would probably consider a cheaper SSD as well for gaming because the 990 Pro is great, but it is not cheap and it mostly benefits heavier workloads. I did post a nice SSD roundup video recently, so I'm gonna link that one in the description box down below, and you can go check it out for a couple of different suggestions when it comes to storage. And I think the part where you can save the most is definitely the motherboard. Now, these ROG motherboards are lovely, but they are very expensive, and if you go for a tough model or something along those lines, it would save you a few hundreds of euros or dollars without affecting your gaming performance at all. So, as always, some parts might make more or less sense depending on where you live, so please make sure you check the prices in your region and you just do a bit of research before deciding what to get. As far as Endorfy goes, I have to say I'm pretty satisfied with the quality they bring to the table for a reasonable price, and in my opinion, they're definitely worth considering if you're planning to build a new system. They just really need to make sure that they are available in other regions and that their prices stay this competitive. That's all. Now, that's all I had for today, but before I go, let's check out the sponsor of this video. This video is brought to you by Corsair and their brand new gaming monitor, the Xeneon 34WQHD 240C. This beautifully designed monitor comes with a top-of-the-line 34-inch QD OLED panel with a subtle 1800R curve, an ultra-wide Quad HD resolution, 240Hz refresh rate, instant response times, and a near-perfect color reproduction, making it a great option for anything from fast-paced games to immersion games, from content consumption to content creation. And if you're worried about possible burn-in that is inherent to all OLED panels, Corsair has you covered with a 3-year-long warranty that includes burn-in. So if you're looking for a new high-end ultra-wide, please do check out the link in the description below. Thank you all for watching and for staying to the end. I really hope this video was interesting enough. If you liked it and you want to see more videos like this one, please do consider clicking that subscribe button so you never miss my future uploads. Bye guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!